Yeah.
Two kids go school. One more short.
According to CT Post, Stratford acting superintendent to receive.
Is anybody going to turn on the air conditioning or circulate the air in here? Do you think?
Maybe I should talk to that guy.
Are you the facility?
He does not work there.
Nobody's here from facility, maybe.
Somebody was just taking care of
Yeah, the
I don't
the
know.
stadium was just here.
it. You look official.
You do, you have the right color.
You're so helpful.
Oh, I guess we're not, we're gonna.
No, it's usually this way, right?
That is not cool.
All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order at 7:15. Ms. Carol Fabian had sent a note, she might be a little late this evening, but she's on her way. All of the members are here, so we do have a quorum. Mr. Kibbe?
Please stand for the opening prayer. We beseech you, Almighty God, bless the meeting of the Board of Education, so guide and rule over our hearts and minds that all our deliberations and decisions may be in accordance with your will and used for the advancement and welfare of the community of Stratford, whom we serve. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so to get us started, we are through the budget process. I think Ms. Borges will give us some numbers on staff retention, which I think we did extremely well. Based just on the makeup of the two bodies, the council and the board, it's created to be a confrontational relationship. Board members who fight for the education and children, and the council members who look out for the entire town, the senior citizens and those who don't have children, but also the children as well. And quite often what happens is the conversation gets nasty along the way. I was talking to an old friend of mine, Alvin O'Neill, who is a old councilman like myself, and one of the rules we had back in the day was, if you're gonna complain, bring something positive. Don't complain just to complain. We've been working with the council over the last 6 months, the mayor's office, Opening communications, communication is key. So I'm gonna ask everybody, moving forward, if you have something, bring something positive. Don't tear down. Help us make this place better. That's what I think we're all trying to do. We may differ on how we do it, but your opinions are valued, and we would ask that everybody bring something positive to the table. Tearing down gets us nowhere. It just makes us look bitter. So the old rule, according to Alan O'Neill from Ray Vicola, was, again, if you have something to say it, but bring something better. Don't just tear down. And I'm asking we all do that. So that being said, we'll move on to public forum. So each speaker will have 3 minutes. We'll ask that you respect that time. Ask that you respect public decorum. Keep your topic, keep your commentary focused on the issues at hand. Personal attacks of board members or staff or town officials will not be tolerated. So please keep your comments to the issues. We're here to listen, and hopefully we can hear what you have to say. First speaker will be Katie Kozinski.
Yeah, hi, how are you? Should I go up here? This is easier. I'm going to read because I get kind of nervous.
Go to the microphone.
Oh, there's a microphone. Oh, this is very official. Okay, hi, I'm Katie Kaczynski. My son Ethan Ressner just finished his kindergarten year at Wilcoxon. Ethan is no stranger to the school system of Stratford. He was identified for having speech and social delays through the Birch-Free program, and he attended pre-K at Second Hill Lane School, had a great experience there. And I'm here tonight to voice a few concerns, some optimizations, and some questions I have regarding the redistricting. I'll start with the concerns that I have. I feel like the children of Stratford are being treated like numbers on a ledger versus the tiny human beings they are. I don't think that various scenarios make enough of an effort to minimize those impacted. Is there an opportunity to reevaluate so that less children can be affected by this? If the concern really boils down to Johnson being overcrowded and Chapel having capacity, why should children from any other elementary school be affected? Wouldn't it be natural and the easiest approach to bus the kids from Johnson to Chapel? Chapel is a mere 4 or 5 minutes from Wilcoxon, so I see it as a negligible difference in commuting time for those children. So that's one question. I'll move on. 2 optimizations that I'd like to propose since you were talking about building better, okay? For any child entering transitional years, we're talking 6th, 8th, 12th, I feel like they should remain in their school of origin. It's unnecessarily disruptive for those children to be ripped from their school at such a pivotal grade. For any child with an IEP, parents should be given the option to waiver them into their school of origin. Children with IEPs have care teams, and care teams take years to develop a good relationship. And those children typically have more anxiety than standard children. Not standard, but typically developing children. Okay, let's start. Regarding those child moving, let me start over. Additionally, the likelihood of those children having anxiety regarding a move is much higher and will cause progress delays in those services as they adjust to a new team. Obviously, parents who welcome the change of the care team or who have children that are more flexible can stay with the change if they choose. And now here are some of my questions. My first one is kind of the most important for me. Do you have predictive data that showcases that another redistricting won't be necessary in the near future? I know that there was one in 2018. I wasn't in the school district then, but I know that one happened. And that seems like not that long ago. So I just wanted to know if you had any predictive data. What? Oh, I have 2 more questions. You are good. And then, okay, second question. What is the transition plan for the kids who will be moving? Will there be meet and greets, orientations? How will this be communicated to our children since it's going to be such a big change for the kids that do have to move? And lastly, what does your team do with the parents' concerns, proposed changes, etc.? Do you actually discuss them amongst yourselves and move forward with some that make sense? Or do you just shelf them because you already have a plan in place? That's it.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
Bernie Armstrong.
Good evening, everybody. I'm kind of unique to the situation
And
because
if you could just for the record, just say your name and
Okay.
address, please.
no problem. Bernie Armstrong, 985 Riverton Terrace. Kind of unique to this situation. I'm actually a school administrator in Bridgeport, so I totally understand redistricting and having different plans. But this affects me in a different way because of my only daughter. When she enters sixth grade, this plan looks to go into effect. Jalen's been with her peers at Wilcoxon since kindergarten, and she's a member of the Wilcoxon community and has great experience in that community. Obviously, a lot of the kids were affected through COVID, virtual learning, and a lot of different issues of that nature. And so I really would love for those kids to kind of move in that direction and continue in their educational plan. To pull her out of her school track at this point, which is Wilcoxon, to Worcester, to Stratford, would be unfair, disruptive, and obviously counterproductive. She will be allowed to graduate with her Wilcoxon friends, continue on to Worcester and Stratford with her peers, and like we always feel, less is more in terms of moving children. Part of the reason that we bought our home was to be in this particular community, to know what the school pathway was. Obviously, myself being an administrator in schools, my wife being a teacher also, we know how important those things are working together. And I'll kind of tie it off with this, like we said, bring something positive to the table. My idea would be, with scenario one, to look at moving the kids that are affect the kids that are new to the town, and maybe students that are incoming into kindergarten. Would make a little bit more sense in terms of disrupting the least number of kids, and obviously leaving the students who are already in their pathway, for them to continue on. Thank you, guys.
Bonnie Reynolds.
Bonnie Reynolds, 430 Chickadee Lane. I do wish that I had more positive things to say. Unfortunately, I'm here to speak about recent decisions the Republican-controlled BOE has made. Both redistricting and Dr. Asundi's firing were decisions made in special meetings, which means the public is not able to speak to the topics in a public forum prior to the meeting. This disturbing use of the rules is underhanded in a corrupt way the Republicans have used their power over and over again. At the last redistricting question and answer session, the chair stated a forum would be held before a vote was taken. This did not occur even after strong encouragement from the Democratic minority. The two question and answer meetings held were, which in the special meeting for redistricting were referred to as forums, were not forums. Prior to the public meeting, they were told that constituents were to specifically share their opinions, weren't to share their opinions and feelings, but simply bring questions regarding the two options. Regardless of the chair insisting all constituents had enough time to speak to their issues, they did not, based on the chair's previous promises to have a forum. Having a forum now, once you've decided upon option one, is an insult to the public. You fired Dr. Asunde with no clear stated reasoning. The chair stated we may at some point hear why, but we can't believe this will come to fruition, giving past broken promises. This search for any reason to fire an employee is something that is beyond comprehension. This decision is not good for our school system. It puts us behind on the progress we have made and puts an interim superintendent in charge of major decisions which will have long-term implications. Our system needs a long-term plan with a long-term leader, and we are floundering. Lastly, I would like to point out that the Republican-controlled BOE is causing so much uncertainty in our system that we are losing staff to other school systems. Good employees are looking for other jobs and are trying to jump a sinking ship while our kids drown.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Zenke. Now, this is my personal experience, but I think a lot of people can kind of resonate with it. When my son first entered kindergarten 5 years ago, I learned that Stratford had neighborhood schools and did not provide buses. I had never heard of this before. It was explained that one major reason for this was to save money on busing. Seemed odd to me at the time, but the thing is, I learned to love it. The time spent dropping off and picking up allowed us to connect with other parents. Over the years, we've formed relationships with these families. We've become a part of the neighborhood school Wilcoxon, now our community, and that's all being taken away from us. My children will no longer attend school with their classmates, not only for the remainder of elementary school, but not in middle or high school either. Many of these kids have been together forming bonds for the past 5 years. They battled all that was thrown at them during the pandemic, like remote learning. These kids have a special bond and have been through enough. And it's not only the kids that it's affecting. Not being a Stratford native, we have no local family to lean on. We've spent the past several years getting to know our school community, forming trusted relationships, which isn't an easy task. It takes time to build these relationships. To feel safe, having your kids spend time with someone outside of your family. A perfect example, just this morning, I woke up to a flat tire. And who did I call? Another Wilcoxon mom. And she didn't hesitate to come scoop up my kids and take them to camp for me. We count on these people to help us out when in need because, well, as they say, it takes a village. I understand that some of Stratford's schools are overcrowded and need to be rebalanced. But what I'm asking is for you to consider how many families you're ripping from their community in this process. Why wouldn't you choose a plan that affects the least amount of kids as possible? Why wouldn't you choose a plan that requires less buses? Instead of pulling kids from multiple schools and shuffling them around town, why not move kids from the overcrowded schools to Chapel, as that's the underutilized school?
30 seconds.
Thank you. By doing this instead of scenario 1, it would disrupt less families and there would be less buses needed. Which wasn't that the major reason why these neighborhood schools were created to begin with? Save money and create a sense of community. It's not as simple as moving a few kids around like they are puzzle pieces. It's the effect it has on their social and emotional well-being, and it's taking away parents' safety net and their sense of community. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Heather Lucibello, and I live at 325. I'm a little short for that. 325 Raven Terrace. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you all tonight. I'm hopeful that the board will be open to considering the input of parents before confirming an implementation plan for the redistricting. In looking at scenario 1 and the current imbalance of percentage utilization in our elementary schools, it's plain to see that large numbers of students need to move out of Johnson, and Chapel is in need of large numbers of students to move in. While having to move the Johnson House students again is incredibly unfair and upsetting, they simply don't have the space. To decrease the number of students impacted by the redistricting, which I believe was one of the guiding principles, why not move all of the Johnson House children directly to Chapel? When I posed this question to the board chair, some of the responses I have gotten have been, we want to be fair to all kids. It goes without saying that this is incredibly unfair to the students in the Johnson House district. Time and time again, they have been moved out of and back into their neighborhood schools. When the district demagnetized the academy and redistricted back in 2018, the public spoke out with the facts that this plan would backfire, and their pleas went unheard. Additionally, the unfortunate outcome of an insufficient school budget required the difficult decision to transition Vicky Soto from a lower elementary school to a preschool at that time as well. As such, the newest and most beautiful school in town was closed off to that neighborhood as their lower elementary path, and further compounded the class size issue at Johnson. No one disagrees that this is incredibly unfair to the Johnson House neighborhood. However, it doesn't make it any more fair to them to double the amount of students moving by moving 71 students out of Wilcoxon to move 68 Johnson House students in. Another response I got was sending Johnson students directly to Chapel is too long of a bus ride. This response doesn't seem to make sense because the time it takes to travel from the Wilcoxon bus loop to the Chapel bus loop is about 5 minutes. Unfortunately, the Johnson students have to get on a bus regardless. In speaking of bus routes, by moving 71 Wilcoxon students, the district will have the added cost of a minimum of 2 additional buses. Another response I got was we need better racial balance. The plan you selected from SLAM doesn't impact racial balance numbers. Another response was we need to balance the numbers better. We're talking about the difference of 3 students. 68 Johnson House students in, 71 Wilcoxon students out, and I think it goes without saying that that rationale is preposterous. So, in closing, I'd like to say, please listen to the parents this time. If hindsight is 20/20, just simply look back to what took place in 2018. Given that we're currently in step 3 of the redistricting plan, which includes further analysis, refinement, and public input, please tweak this plan to allow the Wilcoxon students to remain. Please consider waivers for extenuating circumstances, save money on busing Wilcoxon walkers, and use that money to enhance all of our students' educational opportunities. Thank you.
I was hoping Heather adjusted this for me, but she did not.
I couldn't quite agree.
I know, you did not. All right. Oh my gosh, you tall people. All right. Good evening. My name is Andrea Corcoran. I live at 521 Windsor Ave. I have so many feelings around the decision that the majority of this board made last week regarding the contract of Dr. Uwe Sunday. I'm disappointed, I'm concerned, I'm disgusted, I'm sad. I'm not, unfortunately, shocked. Many of us knew that this was an inevitability, a punishment for a leader who stood up for our students and who didn't bend to the will of those in power. As Board of Ed members, it is your stated purpose, and I quote your bylaws here, to improve the education of our children, provide for their safety, and to advocate for them and their best interests. It remains unclear to me how this investigation, this vote, has improved the education of our children. I'm not sure how it has provided for their safety, nor is it evident to me how this is in the best interest of my student or the other nearly 7,000 Stratford Public School students. I do know that this investigation and its related legal fees have cost the district hundreds of thousands of dollars. I can think of so many other things that these resources could be directed to that would better serve our schools and students. Moreover, I'm deeply concerned about the broader implications of this decision on our district's reputation and our ability to attract and retain talented professionals. Respect for employees and a supportive work environment are crucial for maintaining a thriving educational community. These principles have not been showcased over the course of the past 6 months. I have said this publicly before, but it bears being repeated. In my capacity as former Board of Education Chair, I worked with Dr. Sunday for over 2 years. I can attest firsthand to his unwavering commitment to our students' well-being and his dedication to inclusivity and collaboration within our community. I would be very pleased to see him leading our district again. I remain hopeful that our community will continue to advocate for what is right and just for our students and educators alike. It is my sincere hope that this board majority will begin to prioritize the well-being of our students and the integrity of our district over political allegiance to one party and its local leader. Our students deserve your allegiance more. Thank you.
Tall people. Good evening. To the Stratford Board of Education, thank you for letting me speak. My name is Kenneth Pugh at 1990 Cuspering Road, Stratford. As a long-standing member of this community who cherishes every aspect of Stratford, I must express my deep disappointment and embarrassment in light of the recent decision to initiate the termination of Dr. Sunday. Over the past 6 months, I observed with great concern how certain members of this board, primarily from the Republican Party, have orchestrated a relentless campaign to tarnish the reputation of our esteemed school superintendent. initially citing his suspension in connection to an arrest which failed to achieve their desired outcome. They proceeded to launch a baseless and far-reaching investigation. What was the true motive behind this unjust investigation? Were our children at risk? Was there evidence of severe neglect of duties? Did the district fail to meet or exceed standards under Dr. Asunde's leadership? Or was this merely a ploy to remove him from his position to install someone more amenable to your preferences and ideologies? It is evident that the intent was never to reinstate Dr. Asunde. The board has made significant appointments to his team without his consultation, clearly aiming to replace his supporters with individuals who align closely with their own agenda. The departure of 3 prominent staff members of color under this administration raises serious concerns about inclusivity and equity within our educational system. I urge the board to reconsider its actions and prioritize the well-being and success of our students and community above personal agendas. It is crucial that decisions affecting our schools are made with transparency, fairness, and genuine commitment to serving the best interests of all stakeholders. Mr. Chairman, you said at the beginning of this meeting to bring something to the table positive. I ask you this: is it positive to terminate Dr. Asunde? Is that a positive move? Does that help our children? To the Republican members, does this help our children? Does this help this community heal? It does not. So I throw it right back at you. Let's not tear down. Let's build up.
Good evening, Janice Cupie, 1460 Elm Street. I am beyond disheartened by you 4 Republican board members. To say that I am disappointed would imply that I had hope and high expectations to begin with. Embarrassed is a more appropriate word. You have misused your power and your hatred for an educated and respected Black man to remove him from a position because your masters told you to. It is no secret that you and your Republican masters have wanted Dr. Asunde gone from the beginning. Since his hiring, you've been purporting that he had no experience as a superintendent, yet you put him on administrative leave only to put someone without a superintendent certification or any experience as a superintendent to fill his position. Your hypocrisy and discrimination are glaring. Your investigation was baseless. It was an egregious waste of taxpayer money and a blatant act of discrimination. You have attempted to tarnish Dr. Asunde's reputation from the beginning. The investigation and your party line vote exposes your partisan motives behind this witch hunt and administrative lynching. You have now chased away all of our Black employees who held leadership positions in the district, from the superintendent, the assistant superintendent, and the DEI supervisor. Lord knows who else. Every year, parents show up and literally beg to fund our schools, yet how quickly you have been able to divert funds from important educational services to finance this bogus investigation and pay legal fees for yourselves against the racial discrimination lawsuit. Before I close, I need to also say this because it's been annoying me for a while. Mr. O'Brien, why do you sit up there and agree with everything that Mr. Henrik suggests? Don't you see that you're basically an automatic yes vote? Mr. Kennedy, you've been on the board for 3 years, and I don't think you've said more than 100 words in all those years. Is this what you want your legacy to be? When will both of you stand up for what you believe in? It is time you speak up and stop letting bullies destroy our schools and our town. Stratford residents, let's recall these 4 irresponsible board members. Thank you.
William Boyd. Oh, just so I can for the record too, it wasn't us that kicked out Fallon Daniels, so please get your facts straight.
Shut up.
Thank you.
William Boyd,
Let's
680.
build up. Let's build up. Let's not tear down. Let's build up.
William Boyd.
It's a non-board comment time, Mr. Chair.
William Michael Boyd, 681 Sedgwick Avenue, Stratford. And as you said at the beginning of the meeting, you opened up in prayer. I'm a prayerful man, I grew up in church. It's needless. Prayer is only to lead from the heart and do what's right. That seems not to be the case here. Secondly, you had asked us to bring something positive to change. Just that little transition there shows there's an attitude there that's disconnected from the people here who are trying to come with open arms saying, hey, what is going on? There seems to be an attitude of entitlement and an edict from somewhere in town. I can say who, but there's an edict that you must carry out a plan regardless of the plan of the people who have elected you. Now I'm sure Republicans, Democrats, people have children. They have taxpayers. They want the best for the town because the Board of E does affect the town council, which affects the tax base, affects the grant list, which then affects funding. So if you have a cog in the town that's creating so much havoc, it's going to create havoc in other parts of the town. People move here to have a strong school system. You can't have a strong school system when you have constant change and consternation. I was here on CARE when they decentralized or demagnetized Johnson House. We said everything, this is not going to work. It's proven it did not work. So again, we're back at the same spot where you're just shuffling, kids are just numbers, as someone said earlier. And as the gentleman said, as Janice said, as I said, you gave Dr. Sunday a raise in 2022. It was 4-3 then, reluctant at best, and it was a one-year extension. That same 4-3 seems to keep playing itself out. Almost like there's a playbook beyond the gentleman's job performance. There seems to be, we're going to do this regardless of that. And then, unfortunately, as we all have, you guys had a board member, probably not during your time, that was a convicted, who was convicted as a sexual deviant. You wouldn't even ask him to leave. This gentleman was doing his job. And it was always trying to find something. So, again, as I'm a man of faith, we all make mistakes. That day he made a mistake, but it wasn't a conviction with the police department. They threw it out. So are you saying yourself that you are ahead of police? You guys, that board has judged him such that even it's above criminal behavior, which they didn't see. So it seems like you're operating on your own playbook that none of us seem to understand what it is. We just figured out, excuse me, you gave me like 10 seconds, I reintroduced myself 3 times. Just give me a moment, so I'll close. I'm just saying, you've already set your stamp from the beginning with Dr. Sunday, and you were looking for something to go, aha, I got you. That wasn't a got you. Thank you.
Christopher Green, 550 Housatonic Avenue. Last November's election, Stratford voters elected 2 Democrats and 1 Republican to the school board. While this gave Republicans the 1 seat needed to assume control, it was certainly not a vote that justifies the one-sided approach that has been taken by the Republican majority since. From the start of this term, I've watched with dismay as past precedents of shared leadership on the BOE have been abandoned. All of the leadership positions of this board and all committee chair positions are now occupied by Republicans. I would highlight the curriculum committee, where rather than reappointing Lisa Carroll Fabian, a career educator, or Chris Cormier, also a career educator who isn't even on the committee, Republicans instead appointed someone who hadn't even won their last BOE election to chair. Entering into the teacher contract negotiation, the BOE majority has continued to deny Democrat counterparts a seat at this important table for shaping the future of our schools. Stratford Republicans often complain about the audacity of those accusing them of racism. And yet, the number of times I've seen Stratford Republicans scoff roll their eyes, or express other obvious forms of disdain when confronted with calls to recognize the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion in this community is way too high. Having friends that are members of a community or attending a flag raising does not mean that you can't, in important ways, conscious or unconscious, still be acting on the basis of bias against racial or other protected classes. I would like to believe that not all of the Republicans named in Dr. Asunday's lawsuit are consciously racist. I hope that those who are not are doing some deep reflecting on the contents of that filing and what that publicly available information says about you. I hope you are also reflecting on the optics of your actions since that filing. You chose to expand the investigation into our superintendent well beyond its initial parameters into areas that should be handled by a standard performance evaluation, not private investigators and lawyers. You have now voted with minimal public justification to begin proceeding with his termination. Stratford schools now have more than 70% students of color, and our staff and leadership continues to lag in adequate and reflective representation. Less than 15% of SPS teachers are of color.
We have about 30 seconds.
This year, SPS has already lost their assistant superintendent of color and a supervisor of equity and inclusion engagement who is a Black Stratford resident. The closest role I could find to that, since it was eliminated, was, because you've shuffled your titles, supervisor of innovation and engagement. Equity and inclusion has literally been removed from the equation. None of you are eligible for re-election, but I hope as a matter of principle you consider the perceptions and will of the community of which you serve. I hope you consider the significance of your voice in your decisions. I hope you look carefully at the information presented and do what you know to be right for the future of our town. In the words of Matthew McConaughey, who wrote one of my daughter's favorite books, just because you can doesn't mean that you should do it.
Good evening. Michael Sontag, 115 Allendale Drive, Stratford, Connecticut. I'm the chair of CARE, Citizens Addressing Racial Equity. We have worked over 16 years as an ally and a collaborator with the public school system. We have worked to find qualified teachers and administrators of color, and we have worked to help ensure that our children of color and all children have the resources they need to be successful over that period of time. Isn't it ironic that both efforts have been undercut by members of this board? Given that the superintendent of schools, a black man of quality, the assistant superintendent of schools, a black woman, fired, the director of DEI and the community outreach person, both black women leaving the school system, and others that I've talked to that don't know that they can stay because they don't feel supported in this system any longer. This sends an obvious message to the community and to our kids that this is not a supportive environment for them or for their children. What quality educator of color would come into this environment? I'm not saying that only white educators can teach our kids. I am a white educator of 50 years. I am saying that our children in the system, 74% children of color, need to see educators that look like them to let them know that they can aspire to higher things. That has been undercut. I have much respect for the educators in Stratford, for the administrators and the teachers. They've done wonderful things given the stress and the chaos that they faced. But let's talk about equity of resources. Budget cut, Alpha program destroyed, librarians and reading specialists cut, all while spending thousands and thousands of dollars of our taxpayers' money on a shadow investigation that could have been handled by the customary work evaluation of a superintendent, counseling and support, usually offered to a superintendent by a board. A case that was nollied by the prosecutor and extinguished by the judge with an apology to Dr. Sunday was used as an excuse for a suspicious investigation and now putting us in the throes of a federal suit. Perceptions become realities. I have said that before.
You have about 30 seconds.
Thank you. We request that the board get back to its primary task, to ensure that every child get the resources and education they need to be successful, and to remove itself from the Alliance designation. We request answers, facts, and a chance for community input in the ousting of our superintendent, and community input in any new hires, and community input into the decisions on the scenarios. We remain available to work with the schools as always to achieve these goals, as community involvement was a focus of the school strategic plan for this last school year. Another irony.
Time.
But that was seemingly forgotten in the chaos that's occurred. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, I put that down as throwing us off.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Olga Pena, 454 Laughlin Road, Stratford, Connecticut. Today I had a very tough time trying to figure out whether I should speak or not. My kids have gone through the school system and are young adults. But I've been with CARE, and I am since the inception, and I'm on the Education Action Team. I'm also co-chair for the Hispanic Heritage Committee. And the decisions that have been made recently have really, I feel, are an impact to our children. But more so, an impact to the taxpayer. From my estimation, listening to the meetings online, I really didn't speak on any of the meetings that you had before this. We're into these law fees about $300,000 to $500,000, including the salary to a Sunday and the salary stipend to the acting superintendent. And my question is, do we expect to spend more tax dollar money and accrue more law fees for this? When you say bring something to the table, my thing is settle. Settle with Dr. Sendel, reinstate him. I thought maybe it was a done deal, but maybe it's not a done deal. Nothing is ever, nothing is ever a done deal. We all know that. I think that if we settle with us Sunday, we could use those dollars to bring more support to the teachers in the classroom. There is a lot of problems in the middle schools, and I think that those teachers need to be supported. It's a very gentle time for these children that have been shuffled around. They're going to be shuffled around again. And as someone said before, the last redistricting, I came up here and I told them this is not going to work for certain reasons. And that's exactly right. They didn't save any money. So again, I asked this board to please reconsider what we're doing, spending money that really, we could go into thousands and millions possibly with a lawsuit. Just settle. Bring it to the table and be big boys and girls and do it. Because at the end of the day, it only benefits the community. CARE stands for Citizens Addressing Racial Equity. I came up with the tagline, building bridges for a stronger Stratford. I don't see a stronger Stratford in the future. I see a Stratford as being divided, and that should not be that way. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for your comments. That being the last speaker, we're going to move on. Hopefully you'll all stick around to hear the data of the Stratford School District and maybe get some of your questions and comments answered. We have no student representatives or attorneys report or state legislation, so I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Borges for the Stratford Public School District data. Hopefully you'll all stay and listen.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we review the Strategic Operating Plan data for the 2023-2024 school year. Our focus for this review will be on 3 critical areas: academic achievement, attendance improvement, and behavioral infractions. These areas are not just numbers and statistics. They represent the heart of our effort to provide a nurturing and effective educational environment. Also, please note that not all data has been released at this point. You will not see SBAC or SAT data as it is not complete and released by the state at this point. Thanks, Diana. We begin with an overview of our data and progress in the area of well-being. This year, our focus strategies included attendance, student discipline, and social and emotional learning. So let's explore how these strategies have impacted this area. Our well-being strategies have been essential to our efforts. Through the AIP and family outreach programs, climate specialists, ruler, and DESA initiatives, we have aimed to enhance the social and emotional competencies for our students. First, on attendance. I am proud to share that we have made significant strides. Our rate of students being chronically absent has decreased from 28% to 19.5%. This improvement is a testament to the hard work and dedication of our entire community, parents, teachers, and students. It shows that when we come together with a shared vision and commitment, we can create positive change. Attendance will remain a critical area for us to focus on in the future. Our AIP program, a grant-funded program. Our AIP program has positively impacted attendance rates, highlighting the importance of consistent engagement with our students and our families. Through this grant program, we have prevented 3,874 absences this year, and that is huge. We have also targeted student discipline, a key area. By implementing the new Code of Conduct strategies, we aim to reduce the disciplinary issues and promote a positive school climate. As you can see, we have decreased. Oh, did I hit that?
Very sensitive.
It's all right. That's right. We have decreased our out-of-school suspensions by more than half. We have lowered the percentage at the bottom of students that get a repeat suspension. So that has gone from 15.3% last year down to 12% this year. Our out-of-school suspensions are highlighted in green. We have seen an increase in our in-school suspensions, but as noted at the beginning of the school year, by implementing a new Code of Conduct, we knew the in-school suspensions may increase. In the past few years, our students have faced a significant increase in mental health concerns, including anxiety, depression, and behavioral disorders. To proactively support our students' mental health, we have implemented school-based programs focused on building social and emotional skills. Early screening with DESA, which is the Devereaux Student Strengths Assessment, allows us to identify student strengths and needs, engaging them with positive, strength-based approach to foster emotional resilience and overall well-being. This, coupled with ruler, is how we have supported our students. The DESA measured self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, goal-directed behavior, personal responsibility, decision-making, and optimistic thinking. This was the pre-assessment given, and this was the post-assessment given. This school year, we conducted the DESA screening 3 times. The results have been encouraging. Our students have demonstrated significant growth in their social and emotional skills. Specifically, we have seen an increase in the percentage, can you go back one slide, Diana? We have seen an increase in the percentage of students with strong social and emotional skills from 28% to 30%, while reducing the students in need of instruction from 8% to 6%. When we did the DESA, you gave this assessment, and then it helped the teachers target specific lessons in ruler to be able to help those students build those skills in that strength area. So now you can go on to the next one. Our biggest improvement areas have been goal-directed behavior, personal responsibility, and optimistic thinking. Those are the areas where we have seen the highest growth. These skills are crucial for our students' success both in and out of the classroom. The following graphs illustrate the wonderful progress of our students have made throughout the year, thanks to the targeted support and interventions provided through the SEL programs. So this is kindergarten through 6th grade. And you can see, you want to see the green get larger, we want to see the red get smaller. So we do know which grades we need to target a little more next year. That did not show the amount of growth we wanted to see. Can you go to the next slide? And the next one is going to be your 6th graders through your 12th graders. So again, we're looking for the green to increase. This is the pre and the post. So the one we gave in October, and then the one we gave in May. And so you can see we have seen a marked increase in our students' strengths and skills. And I think that is because we are in our 4th year of ruler. And now, on top of having ruler, we actually have an assessment to say, these are the lessons we need to teach. So when you do that, now we have a little more targeted approach for what our students are getting for their social and emotional well-being. At this point in time, I'm going to turn it over to Diana to talk a little bit about the academic improvements. I can play with your sensitivity.
Thank you, Heather. So our academic data reveals both challenges and successes. This year, we've introduced a new MTSS process, new data collection systems, and several other new initiatives to support our students' academic growth. Although we found some stumbles along the way, like testing overload, which took away from instructional time, we learned from these stumbles and look forward to turning them into positive outcomes for next year. Some positive pockets include the following. So for Bunnell High School, they have seen a notable improvement. 75.3% of students who took the fall 2023 PSAT and the spring 2024 SAT showed an overall increase in their score. Likewise, Stratford High School also demonstrated progress. 71.2% of students who took the PSATs in the fall improved their score on the school day SAT in the spring. Elementary, middle, and high school math has shown growth as well using the NWEA, which, keep in mind, this was a new assessment for us all to learn. So some large growth, some minimal growth, but I think using the system as with DESA, over time, we'll see a huge increase. For math, though, I'm happy to say that we saw great growth in NWEA. So high school, NWEA math shows growth 55% in the fall to 71% tile in the spring. Middle school, 8th grade, that's both middle schools put together, showed growth of 74 in the 74th percentile. Middle school 7th grade NWA math growth was 59, 9th percentile, and elementary school NWA math for K all the way to 6th grade, the growth was between 55 and 86 percentile. So overall, math did very well on NWEA with growth from 35 to 65% overall as a district. That's K all the way to 12. This is compared to peers across the nation, and what this means is that there is actually catch-up growth happening in math, which is the first time we've seen in quite a while. Next slide, please. Elementary, middle, and high school reading has shown pockets of growth as well, but full transparency, not as much growth as we've seen in math. High school has moved their reading growth from 32nd percentile to the 51st percentile. Again, middle school 8th grade they went in the 60th percentile. The 7th grade was in the 47th percentile, and then elementary, kindergarten through 6th grade was in the 47th percentile. So overall reading was a little bit more stagnant, growing from only 41st to 42nd percentile. So clearly there's work to be done in reading. As you all know, we have a new reading program coming up. And the next two slides show us some support in reading and some positives. So the next slide is our DIBELS, our foundation skills, which on the other hand showed great growth. So DIBELS is our state-approved screener, and this assessment showed a 14% increase in proficiency from 52% proficiency in the fall to 66 in the spring. So you can see that the breakdown for K3, this is incredible growth in our younger grades, which over time will show its effect in the upper grades. Every single grade level, you can see the red decreasing and the yellow, green, and blue increasing. In addition, if you go to the next slide, our soft launch teachers show much promising results with tremendous growth in this assessment. One classroom decreased by 6%, so we will be working with that grade level. One maintained, but the rest, all of the other 6 classrooms grew from 6% to 44%, which is huge. So we're excited for them to move.
Explain what a launch classroom is.
So for those who aren't familiar, sure, with the soft launch, we have the new Into-Reading program coming to our elementary schools, K through 6, K through 5. 6th grade is actually called Into Literacy. And the soft launch was this year, there were 2 per grade level teachers throughout the district that piloted. It's another word for piloted. It's a nice term, soft launch, because they softly got into the program, was trained, kind of worked out some kinks so that when we launch it for the other grade levels, we're going to already bypass some of those problems that the soft launch teachers found. But overall, they were assessing the DIBELS, which are foundational skills, and these are composite scores, so from letter ID to letter sounds to phonemic awareness skills, all of the foundational skills put together showed really good growth for the majority of the soft launch teachers. We also wanted to share our Panorama survey data, as they have provided valuable insights from our families, students, and our staff. These surveys guide our strategies to enhance communication and high-quality instruction across the district. Every school principal and administrator works with their team to analyze those scores and to work on improving the areas of the survey that were low for their school, overall for our district. So our families found strength in our communication with 86% favorable. What went down, you'll see the little 2, that means it went down 2%, but the area that it went down was where the statement read, "My child's strength and challenges and academic progress are communicated by their teacher." But overall, that was a favorable number, and obviously in that area, we'll be working with our teachers to give a little more communication to teachers, to their families and parents, so they know where their children are at. Our student survey found strength in our school is rigorous, has rigorous expectations with 72% favorable. What could have strengthened it even more was the score that brought it down a little bit was in the areas of explaining your answers, so teacher actually asking the teachers to explain their answers more, or asking them, do they have an understanding of the materials and the task, and having some high expectations for them. So again, those are areas that we will be working on to improve, to get the 72 up even higher. And then finally, our staff, we found a huge increase of 9 points in total in the area of school leadership. What brought the overall score down in this area was our teacher evaluation process and policy, which just last month the Board of Ed has approved the revision. So I'm hopeful that with the next year's survey, we'll see a huge increase in that area as well. Back to Heather.
There are just some important updates that we're going to need to focus on this summer due to legislative changes. So the code of conduct, we're going to need some policy, and my goodness, this thing really is sensitive. Okay, thank you. We've had some policy changes. I just went to meet with the attorneys to look at all the different changes that have come out of the legislation. For preschool grades to grade 2, the number of allowable out-of-school suspension days is reduced to 5. So in the past, our legislation said if students had a behavioral infraction, they could be suspended 10 days out of school. Now they no longer can. They can be suspended 5 days out of school. And when you're in preschool through grade 2, you may only be suspended out of school if you have physically harmed somebody. For all students, grades pre-K through 12, in-school suspensions you used to be able to give a 10-day in-school suspension. You now can only give a 5-day in-school suspension. All of our discipline policies will need to be updated, and our code of conduct will need to be updated in order to reflect that. As well, there have been significant legislative updates on medication administration and on Title IX. So we'll be working on those this summer so that those policies can be updated and implemented at the start of the school year. Our work doesn't stop here. We are going to continue to use these metrics to guide our efforts, refine our strategies, and ensure that every student and staff member feels supported and valued. Our journey towards excellence is ongoing, and together we can achieve greater success. I want to thank the staff and the students, and especially our families, for their dedication and their hard work. Continuous improvement and adherence to updated policies are going to ensure a supportive and effective learning environment for all of our students for the next year to come. So I thank all of you and our board for your continued support as we work tirelessly to help improve our schools. We are committed to making the district a better place so that every student can reach that portrait of a graduate. And now I will take questions from the board.
Ms. Borges, if we could just go back to the Dibble soft lunch.
Sure.
Can you just clarify what each of those, I understand it's classroom 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, but going across, what is the percentage representing in?
So,
use the microphone. In the fall, you'll see the first red, orange, yellow, green, blue. So for classroom 1, in the fall, their composite score overall for that classroom, I can't see from here, I think it's 41, it says in the red, percent.
40%.
44 was in the red, so they were under.
On their Dibbles.
On Dibbles.
Okay, so.
So then it works its way up to blue is above. Oh, sorry. Yellow and, I don't think anyone even touched that. Yellow and green are all, so yellow, green, and blue are considered on or above grade level.
Wait, but were these like all given at, like, it's just confusing because there's no like heading at the top as to like what they represent, if it's like different time periods.
No,
it's different.
this was fall, so the composites are the overall scores for the entire classroom of all of those scores put together in the fall.
Okay, so the, I'm sorry, I'm trying to cut you off, Dr.
No, it's okay.
Red, orange, yellow, green, and blue, right, equal the white for fall. The red, orange, green, yellow, green, and blue equal, and then the white equal the spring.
So when you add all, well, you put them all together, it gives you the 60%.
Right, but I'm just trying to
of the yellow, green, and blue.
The first section represents fall.
Yes,
and
then the second is
represents
spring.
Okay, because it's not clearly,
Yeah.
it's confusing.
Okay.
Without.
Do you understand that now, though?
I understand it now.
So the yellow, green, and
no-
blue? Yeah, it could have had a heading.
Could you repeat it then?
Sure. So the 60% represents the yellow, green, and blue. So we put those together, and that's the percentage of students that are at or above grade level in the fall. But by the end of the year, that number grew to 85%.
What's the yellow, green, and blue represent?
It's the different phases. So the blue is above grade level, the green is on grade level, the yellow is approaching. But it's for Dibbles, the number for yellow is considered on grade level or above. So the 60 does not represent the red and the orange. Those were below scores. So the growth for one classroom was from 60 to 85%. Another classroom actually went backwards. You can see the 93. That was the classroom that went down, I think it was 6%.
So this right here, this one right here where this little red dot is going over, this is your fall scores. These are your spring scores.
Correct.
This is your classrooms, and this is the total number of students' growth.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're looking at where they went to. So this class went from 60 to 80. This one went backwards a little. This one went up from 44 to 88. So some classrooms had a huge amount of growth, and now we know which classrooms we need to target that didn't grow as much. But because the majority of the classrooms did show growth, we're feeling decently confident about the new program that we are implementing for next year. These are all the classrooms who use the inter-reading program.
Was that helpful, Lisa? Or?
Yeah, it
Needed a
wasn't
heading.
clear what each column was representing. So that's where I was just confused on.
I have a question, sorry. Is this, I see the classrooms and we didn't identify what classrooms they are. Are they all the same grade level across the district, or is it all different grade levels?
Nope, 2 classrooms each from kindergarten through 3rd grade. Because remember, originally we were only going to do K-3, and then we opened it up. And we learned a lot from those 2 classrooms, so the benefit of doing a soft launch is to work out the kinks. So there were some things in the different grade levels that we can definitely, and are talking about switching to improve for the full launch.
How do these, so this is the soft launch, how do these scores compare to the rest of the elementary schools?
If you go back a slide. So this was K-3, Dibbles. And again, one of the changes was difficult this year was our MTSS process and all the assessments we were doing. Some students didn't get the support right off the bat with the new process this year. There were a lot of assessments that impacted our scores, but at the time it was only K-3 for Dibbles. Moving forward, we are going to do Dibbles K-6 so that we can track all of the grades. But you can see that we did fairly well overall in Dibbles. So even though they're not using the new program, remember the science of reading from a couple of years ago? We were the first cohort, so all of the schools have been implementing some of the science of reading strategies in our K-3 classrooms, and I think it's shown a huge growth in Dibbles.
So we implemented some of the new curriculum throughout the district to some extent?
Not the specific inter-reading curriculum, but the strategies of the science of reading, which is embedded in the new curriculum.
So you feel pretty confident that this move, although it was state mandated, this move was much needed and it's shown?
For Stratford, I believe so, yeah.
It's shown marked improvement based on our short time usage of it?
Yeah.
It's really early for us to make
Exactly.
that kind of an assumption, but we are feeling
Hopeful.
positive and hopeful with what we are seeing.
Thank you.
I'll just add though, just with any program, it's all about the implementation as well. So I think that needs some support, because no matter what program you put in place, if the implementation is not done with support and guidance and follow through and making sure that it's being implemented, if you don't do all the components in inter-reading, we might see pockets. So it's going to be really important that we work with our teachers to make sure they're professionally developed and supported throughout the process.
I think Mr. Cormier had a question as well.
I think this one's for Ms. Borges. The changes in the student's social and emotional competence by grade level, that report, the K through 12, can you give us an estimate? What percentage of students were queried in the beginning of the year, and what percentage of students at the end? Because I know where I teach, it's always a struggle getting the parents and the kids and the staff to participate in these surveys. So I'm just curious, the next one, maybe this one, but the next one too.
Yeah.
I'm just curious the percentage of students. Is it different from the beginning of the year to the end?
The number of students that participated in the survey, or the number, I don't know quite what you're asking.
Either.
So we had
students
full
that
participation.
Okay.
So we had full participation. We actually got a commendment from the state who sent us a nice, wonderful email saying that we are one of the few districts where everybody was rated.
It tells me that the data is probably
Yes.
pretty accurate.
Yes.
That
So
students
all
didn't fall off,
three.
that got tired of school, didn't bother to
Yeah.
jump on to Panorama.
No.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other, Ms. Bedell?
I have the same question for the Panorama data then. How many students, families and staff responded to those? Do we know that
I'm
information?
sorry, I don't have it in front of me, but it was much less. So students were quite high. I think a lot of the teachers did it in class with them. And staff was extremely high. Parents, I want to say it was 1,700 and something. No, that was one of the other ones. It was much lower.
Great, thank you.
400. It was around 400 families only.
We can send that to you.
That'd be appreciated.
Any other questions?
Can you go back to the beginning with the attendance?
Sure.
And explain that student count below 90%.
So you have a couple different, I'm going to step out here just so I can see what I'm saying, and I'm pretty sure everyone can hear me anyway. So you have your total students in each school, okay? You have the student count that is below 90%, which is the threshold for chronic absenteeism. The percentage of students that are chronically absent in each of those schools, okay? And then the number of students that are above the 90%, meaning not chronically absent. Okay, and you have the number of students above or chronically absent rate at 90%, and then the school rate is over there. So the column that you really want to pay attention to, where's my little, is it there? Is this one right here. Okay. This is what we're looking at right here that gets us to our 19.55, which was 28% at the end of last year. So each of these schools showed a little growth, and you can see some schools had extremely good rates of attendance.
And at alpha numbers at 84.8.
Yep.
So take that away, and what's that 19.55 become?
I don't know. I didn't do that.
Thank you.
Yep.
So what is the SAJ?
Private Academy Johnson.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Fine, thank you.
Well, I guess if you want to.
Yeah, I was asked by a couple of you for different data, which I have given you in front of you. So that's not the presentation for this. The different board members asked for different pieces of information, which the team has compiled. So in front of you, you have the number of students impacted by the redistricting. Okay, it is a large packet. I have removed identifiable information. I did not provide you with people's personal addresses. I did not provide you with names. I provided you with the grade and the school of the impacted student. Okay, so you can clearly go through that list and see how many students is. What I'm hoping is this helps drive our planning so we can figure out how we want to roll this out. You know, do we want to do an extremely slow rollout with only kindergartners? Do we want to waive transition grades? This is the data you need to help guide those decisions. So that was requested, and now you guys have that. In addition, you requested information regarding the number of staff impacted by the budget. So I've provided that as well. We sent out 30 letters to non-tenured teachers for budgetary non-renewals. We have rescinded already 23 of those letters. We have 1 letter to be rescinded. We had 3 people decline positions. We had 1 resignation, and there was just 2 teachers left not being called back. So I am highly impressed with our HR team and their ability to work with staff to make sure that we had the least amount of staff impacted as possible with this budget. Position eliminations. The number of elimination letters sent were 36. Teachers recalled to positions were 34. Again, the 2 teachers. Layoffs due to elimination was 1 part-time person, 1 full person, and 1 got bumped. 1 person bumped somebody that was non-tenured. So that is your data that you requested regarding staff, and we're pretty much done now. So everyone is in their jobs and in their positions. And then in addition, let me see where this one went. In addition, I provided you, it's very difficult to talk about this, and I know that just in general, women don't tend to do as good of a job advocating for themselves. So I am working on that to make sure that I am advocating. So prior to this year, Dr. Sunday had met with me and asked me to take on additional responsibilities. He had told me that with those additional responsibilities, I would get a title change in order to do those responsibilities, which were fair and equitable. So that you understood, I provided you with my job description as I was hired as the Director of Pupil Service, and then I provided you with the new responsibilities that I had given to me under our superintendent. Okay, and with that is my title change, so that you can clearly understand why the Director of Pupil Service has now turned into the Assistant Superintendent of Student and Staff Services. This is also directly in line with every other district that has asked their Directors of Pupil Services to take on these additional staffs. This requires me to be the McKinney-Vento liaison, the Department Justice liaison, the Title IX coordinator, the Health and Welfare liaison for the town and for the state. This requires me to evaluate a minimum of 4 building principals. It requires me to do all the school to work programs, gifted and talented, homebound, 504s, and supervision. So it's a large increase in abilities, and as much as I don't always want to advocate for myself, this was important to me. And when Dr. Sunday sat me down and asked me to take on these, I said yes, but with a title change that is appropriate. So now you have both job descriptions. I think that was everything you guys asked me for.
I did, and so just for clarification, the list seems at least double, if not more. What kind of additional benefits or salary increases did you receive?
I didn't ask for additional salary. I just wanted to be appropriately titled.
So there's no sort of change. So you got a whole lot more work and no benefit to you.
I wanted to do the work.
Just title.
Yep.
Yes.
I wanted to do the work, and I wanted to be appropriately titled, and also to be a cabinet member. Most districts who have their Directors of Pupil Service in cabinet, they're usually assistant superintendents of pupil service, so that you were not part of a union while you were in cabinet. It is a conflict of interest. So I did come out of the union. Again, under Dr. Sunday, I came out of the union.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Dr. Diorio or Ms. Burgess? Okay, we move on to the...
Can I say one more thing? I forgot. I had one other request to visit buildings, and I want to extend that to everybody. So over the summer, I'm here every day, and some people would like to see some buildings when there's no kids in them, so they can actually see the state of the buildings, and I am happy to do that. So if any of you would like to visit any buildings or all buildings, reach out to Teresa. She'll get you on my calendar, and I'll be happy to take you in so you can see the buildings. I really appreciated somebody saying they wanted to see the state of our buildings inside and out. Now I'm done, sorry.
Ms. Mangini. And hopefully you have a report and you weren't here just to pay attention to anything.
Heather wouldn't let me go. No, I'm teasing. I do have a report for you. I wanted to bring you up to date on the unpaid meals. As you'll recall, last month I did mention that the state offered school food authorities such as Stratford that participate in the National School Lunch Program a one-time opportunity to use excess funds in the nonprofit school food service account to reduce or eliminate the balance of those unpaid school charges. And we had a total of $78,608. Had we not had this opportunity, that would have to have been expensed to our general operating budget. We were approved. We were just notified that they did approve our application. So of course, we've been projecting a year-end balance. That balance will be $78,608 more than we had anticipated, which is really a good thing. And we're in a good spot with our food service program because we do not have the deficits that we've had in the past. So we were able to absorb this cost. And again, while that's the good news, the not so great news is we had $78,000 in unpaid meals. So we are trying to work with our school principals and our guidance counselors to mitigate that as we move forward. Chris?
Can I ask? No, my question. So you were concerned it was going to top out over 100,000. So it's 22 grand less than we thought.
Correct.
Good.
Correct. I did work with Miss Rosa, and we thought it was moving pretty high pretty quickly, so we were giving you our best guesstimate, and it did end a little bit less than we anticipated. Also, I just wanted to share with you that we had a great annual administrative retreat last week, and I actually did present information to the administrators on student activity funds. It was a riveting way to end the school year, but nevertheless, there's a lot of information that we thought was necessary to share. We do have a district handbook on student activities funds. Interestingly enough, I've been named kind of the, I'm not, excuse me, not necessarily guru, but the person through CASBO who seems to help the most districts with student activity funds. And before I even got here, Susan Nicholson had come across something I had done at another district and sort of borrowed it. So when I got here and saw our guidebook, I knew it was a pretty good one because it covered everything that we needed, and I've used it in other places. But since that time, she and I actually have tweaked it a bit. We shared it with the administrators. We've also developed some forms for field trips as calculations, as well as a student list for teachers to use. We'll be sharing this more with our administrators and our faculty and staff at the start of the new school year, and we will share it with the board as well, so you're aware of what we have out there. It has been on our employee service portal for a while, but we'll make certain that you all get a copy, so we'll be just putting some fine tuning on it for the summer. Also, we just wanted to share that we've begun contract negotiations with two of our unions, the UAW that represents the CIAs and the lunch cafeteria workers, and the nurses union. And we're also in the process of setting dates for the teachers to begin their contract negotiations as well. So we anticipate a very busy summer with 3 union negotiations going on. And lastly, I just wanted to share, in case any of you signed up for it, there's a CAVE webinar tomorrow, and it's on grants and excess cost and preparing for year end. And if you show up, I will be there. I was asked to serve on the panel with 2 of my colleagues to present to boards of education members, and I think it'll be worthwhile. We're pretty excited about it. We've been working on the presentation for a while, and I think it'll be just some good information. And I know CAVE is offering a series to board members, and there were a lot of great topics there. So that's my report this evening. Maybe I'll see some of you tomorrow.
Any questions for Ms. Thank you. All right, so we have proposed personnel assignments. Take a motion to
We
approve.
got minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep, minutes. So look for motion for the acceptance of the meeting minutes for the May 28th, 2024 regular meeting, the May 29th, 2024 special meeting, the June 3rd, 2024 special meeting, the June 12th, 2024 special meeting, the June 12th, 2024 special meeting number 2, and the June 2024 special meeting. Mr. Ryan, second by Mr. Bell. Any discussion?
I have some questions, things that need to be revised, so the consent agenda, I don't know, we might have to do it one at a time.
Why don't we, if you have them, do you want to make them as a whole, or do you want to make them individually, and then we can just make a motion to amend as presented?
Does that work?
Yeah.
Okay. First, the May 28th meeting, we had talked about, we reviewed the policy on, it was policy, it was our first read for the policy for, resident, non-resident. We talked about making sure there was no specific, it was either he or she, or there's still a lot of he.
So we have, for that, we have a second read here, and then, so we can take care of those within that second read, I think?
I think what Mr. Premier was trying to say is, so in the minutes, it says a motion to accept was made by Mr. O'Brien, seconded by Mrs. Bedell. A roll call vote was taken, but there was a motion made to amend because of those changes that we felt were needed, and it wasn't noted that there was a motion to amend due to the...
Was it a motion to amend or to accept and to adjust or to amend at our second read? I thought that's how it was that we would.
I don't remember
Yeah.
myself, so that's why I just wanted clarification on that.
Yeah.
Like, because I wanted to make sure that it was noted that we did want to make changes, we weren't accepting it as it was, and we wanted
Yeah.
things amended.
Yeah, it's a valid point. Why don't we just, for clear, so we will amend it in the other part? And maybe we could just note in the minutes that it was, that potential amendments were discussed and was decided they would be addressed at the second read? Is that, if that's acceptable? Yeah.
One more bit. I want to direct this in this board. Just, the resident students, children between the ages of 5 and 21, or should it be 5 and 23?
22.
22.
Because they sometimes stay with us
Right.
until they're 23, but it's
So
22
it's
is
not,
the.
so it's not 21, we'll have to
Right,
adjust
and you don't
that.
turn 22 and you don't leave, you turn 22 and you finish that year.
Yeah, okay, so that needs to be changed too. Thank you.
I would like to make a motion to amend the May 28th minutes. The student representation from Bunnell High School was Miss Jenna Bernardo. Okay. Another adjustment from the May 28th minutes, there's a clerical error for the amount of grants that were given out from $68,000 to $680,000 in grants. It just needs a zero. I would also like to make a motion to amend line 10. The vote reflects a 5-2 vote and not a unanimous vote. The 5 that were agreeing to it were Ms. Carol Fabian, Mr. O'Brien, Mr. Kennedy, Mr. Cormier, and Ms. Jill D'Angelo Powers, and opposed was Ms. Bedell and Mr. Hendricks. That was for the school calendar.
Okay.
Okay, so it says unanimous, but it was a 5-2 vote. I would also like to make a motion to amend the attached attendance for the June 3rd special meeting. It notes that all board members were present. However, Mrs. Bedell was not present and Mr. Cormier was not present.
No, that
was the award ceremony.
Okay.
And then I would also like to make a motion that in the June 12th special meeting, it says a motion was made by Mr. O'Neill to come back from our executive session. I don't know of a Mr. O'Neill. I believe it's supposed to be Mr. O'Brien. And then I would also like to make a motion to amend the minutes from the June 12th special meeting to adopt scenario 1. In there it says we're going to adopt scenario 1 and then hold a public forum at Johnson, but it doesn't say a public forum. It says we're going to answer questions at Johnson. Thank you.
Are there any other, I'll take them all as a whole, are there any adjustments? Or?
That covers it.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to accept the amendments as proposed.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Carol Fabian, second by Ms. D'Angelo Powers. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. And now we'll take a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
So
Moved by Mr. O'Brien, second by Mr. Cormier. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Thank you for picking up on all those. And now, we'll go to the personnel appointments. Assume everybody had a chance to review them. Take a motion to approve.
Can we ask one question about it without getting, I have a question.
Okay, well, let's get a motion to
Okay.
approve.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. O'Brien, seconded by Mr. Kennedy. Discussion.
I'm just confused, or if I can just have some clarification. I don't know if Mrs. is Mrs. Borges, or we need Mrs. Brown for that. I was not aware, maybe it's an error on my part, of the 7 climate specialists eliminated. I don't remember the discussion on that, so I was just curious where, or when that was discussed.
On here it says 2 from Stratford High, 1 from Johnson, 1 from Flood, 1 from Nichols, 1 from Bunnell, and 1 from Franklin.
I'll take it. So we met with our principals, and the cost of a climate specialist and a tutor are close to the same amount of money. And so the principals selected if they wanted to keep one of the tutors versus the climate specialist. in order to have balance. So everybody did elect, most schools elected to keep at least one climate specialist and add one tutor. Some schools didn't feel at the elementary level that the climate specialists were what they needed and that they needed more of a tutor, so they made that selection. At the high school level, they have 6, close to 6. They had 6, so I believe they did turn one in for an additional tutor to work on MTSS.
All right, so basically, if an administrator felt it was necessary and needed, they were willing to eliminate that to gain access to
a tutor. Yeah.
Through Alliance.
Through Alliance.
Grants.
Everything is through Alliance.
Thank you, I just wanted clarification on that.
Mm-hmm.
Any other discussion?
I just have a quick question. There are some positions on here that are stipend positions as of like October and November. Is there a reason they're not? We're just reporting these now? Under the stipend positions for lead teachers, there's an effective October 2nd, 2023 assigned as National Junior Honor Society advisor. There's just positions that were assigned in October and November of 2023 and aren't coming on the list till now. Is there a reason they're delayed or are the dates wrong? I just wanted to.
I think the dates are right. I think they just might have been overlooked.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure we weren't.
We did add stipends for diversity, equity, and inclusion. People in every building.
Right.
So when Ms. Temple resigned, she suggested, rather than replace her, that we hire one diversity, equity, and inclusion person for every building and pay a stipend teacher. So those would also have been added later.
Okay, thank you.
And just for, okay, any other discussion? All those, we have a motion to approve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. We have no budget transfers, authorized signature change form.
Mr. Hemrick? Just because I don't require Ms. Brown to be here at every board meeting, so when you get your pony, if there are things in question and you are going to ask them, if you let me know, she's happy to attend to be able to answer those. That way I don't mess up and make her world harder.
Okay, so authorized signatures change form, get some background on that.
Okay. Recently, we just realized this was one of the things we overlooked with Heather's appointment as acting superintendent of schools. It is the form that's required from the Bureau of Child Nutrition Programs for the State Department of Ed, allowing her to sign off on any of the food service program reports, and most recently with our renewal with Sodexo, I was allowed to sign because I am a signature on here, but it is more appropriate for the superintendent to sign off on those. So we're simply asking you to approve her designation as an authorized signature for any of the agreements and any claims for reimbursement.
A motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Dow.
Second.
Second by Mr. Kennedy. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Overnight field trip, curriculum committee. Ms. Carol Fabian, do you want to walk us through that? Or?
The new Bunnell High School cheerleading coach came to the curriculum committee, and she presented an opportunity for her team to attend in a camp in Pennsylvania, which will help them build their skills, learn new cheers, build some team building things. The cheerleading team of Bunnell lost their coaches halfway through the season, which did not allow them to participate in competitions. They were not able to be present at the state championship basketball game. And so since the hiring of a new coach, she has really kind of re-inspired that at Bunnell. There was less than probably 15 cheerleaders in the last couple of years, and she had over 30 children try out, has taken on over 20, and really wants to help build their skills and build their team. And so this is an opportunity from other times where she has coached in other districts that she found really helped build the program, and so she had asked for permission to have the team travel there and do that. She has looked into even, because obviously with traveling out of state, they will have to take a coach bus, and teaming up with other districts to share that coach bus to kind of cut back on the costs of that. So this is just no cost to the district. It would just really be out of pocket for the girls, and they would be fundraising, or families would be covering to do this summer.
And so the board would need to approve this?
Yes, because they are students of.
I would take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Carol Bailey, second by Mr. Kennedy. Discussion?
I guess this would be for Pam. We have insurance that will cover them?
Yes.
We have an out, like just same thing with like the field trip for the seniors and the band trips. It's a overnight field trip, parental consent form that would be applied.
I guess my only question would be, being that this is not during the school year, so to speak, is it properly classified to be called a school trip?
Yes.
Okay.
The school team, and then just in case I think you're going to where I'm thinking next and anything, there is a nurse on site at the facility, so that is handled also. There is somebody to for medications and any injuries or any needs that they have while they're there.
And this would be the same if it was the band or anyone else
Right.
that's traveling in the summer.
And the coach and the
There's still
assistant
markets.
coach will also be there supervising and in the cabins with the girls.
I know we just had the field trip to the amusement park. Will they be using the same form to fill out, or is the form we're using for them to fill out to sign up for the trip the same or similar?
Our field trip forms are similar.
It'd be the same
They're
form, I would
standard.
assume, as the overnight field trips, like when the band travels to Disney World or things like that.
Hawaii.
Hawaii, it's the international trip, it's the same
all
form
the same
because
form.
it's an overnight field trip.
But so that form would be different than the form we use to the
No,
amusement
it's
park?
all the same form.
It's the same form?
Yeah.
Okay, I was just gonna
It's just there's
suggest.
different pieces if you're leaving the state or if you're leaving the country.
So the
More to
the
it.
attorney
Or if you're
would
staying
do
overnight.
the
Right.
form as a whole?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Policy read, Mr. Cormier. You'd like to make a motion on this, and then we can discuss any changes, Well, the first motion would be to approve.
Make a motion to approve the policy as
Make a motion to approve by Mr. Cormier, seconded by
I'll second.
Mr. Kennedy. Discussion.
so, we've discussed the policy multiple times. It's just everyone agrees on the content. It was just I proposed amending the policy just to be inclusive.
So there were two amendments, right? One was the age.
One was the age, and one was the he or she.
Okay, so the age, can you just,
Or that.
the amendment would be to change the age to
22.
to 22?
21.
And to change all the pronouns?
Right. And I've gone through it and edited them, so.
Right.
Wonderful.
You want to read through them all, or do you want to just approve it?
I think it's pretty.
They're
pretty
set.
simple.
Okay. If you think you can handle it, or we can direct Mr. Lewis to change all the pronouns and have you circulate it.
I believe there was one other change too,
Okay.
with the wording with the superintendent.
So on page 3, under students planning to move to Stratford, I know we had discussed in D, under D, documentation acceptable to the superintendent prior to enrollment of that last line. I know we talked about specifically listing the documentation. I know Ms. Borges had said we have specific criteria. If we could just list that, because in case superintendent changes, we want to make sure that the documentation is consistent and people know what they will need to present, so that it's consistent.
We wanted to say board approved documentation, or?
Well, no, because then it's still kind of generalized, whether it's the board-approved documentation or the superintendent's.
You want to list it, so you want to
Just list the documents, right, the documents that would need to be provided so that people are aware of specifically what anyone would
Do you
have
want
to
that to
present.
include vaccinations, as that is a hot topic right now? You know, Connecticut does require it, but the federal government is not necessarily supporting Connecticut's view of that. So are you talking about just housing documents, or do you want it to say, you need to have proof of address, you need to have, do you want them each listed?
Just the specifics listed, of what we expect and require.
So we are also looking at the vaccination policy, and we'll bring that, I think, separate, so being that this is just the housing.
Yeah. I think it helps to protect us as a board as well, so in the future, can't be claims that this person was required to do this when this person was required to do something else. The consistency.
So at this point, as a board, would you guys prefer to see the documentation amended, the document amended first?
That would be wonderful.
And then, we still have
Time.
time,
You have
so, so then the request would be to make those changes, and I think, and so you guys will present to us an amended
Yep. The
document.
changes to.
I was going to say, I can give you my copy with all of it
Yeah.
noted.
And then you guys can just work together how we decide to
Yep.
ensure that it's complete.
Yep, we can do that.
Okay. So then I would take a motion to table.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Fabian, Ms. D'Angelo Powers, I don't mean, you gotta be,
Sorry.
you gotta be louder. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passed unanimously. We're again.
Tabled items, sir.
So, table items residency, would you be able to give us a report this evening, or are you not prepared for that?
I did not prepare to give you a residency report this evening.
That's fine.
I can happily email one to you, and I can have it ready for August as well.
Yeah, why don't you bring it in August? So, we have no committee assignments, we'll move on to committee reports, curriculum. Mr. Kennedy, I don't think you were at the last meeting, so Ms. Carol Fabian, do you have any updates to give us?
The curriculum committee met. It discussed there was the presentation of the field trip. There was some discussion around math, right? I was trying to think, was there one other item there? There was some discussion from 6th grade teachers who were on the committee regarding math and the use of that program versus another program that we use but not utilize all of the components of, and seeing if that can be something that can be looked at for 6th grade in the future.
Student voice.
Oh, and then student voice, how that would be implemented on the curriculum committee. Would it be through elementary, middle, and high school representatives? Would it be students attending here and there? Would it be based on specific times or different things that arise that would cause us to want or need more student input? So that's still being kind of hashed out there. And that is it for curriculum.
Any questions for curriculum? No? Finance, Mr. Dell?
Our last meeting was, on June 12th, and we discussed all services pretty much being wrapped up for the year, having a little bit of an overage at this point that we discussed using the year-end balance set aside for the Science of Reading program. We discussed a little bit about the food service management company agreement renewal and approved that for renewal. We also discussed the new legislation where we could apply to use part of our food services balance towards the overage that we just heard from Ms. Mangini was about $78,000, I think so. And that was the bulk of it.
questions? Planning and liaison did not meet. Policy review, Mr. O'Brien.
Yes, we met this afternoon, actually. We, Heather Borges explained earlier some of the legislative changes. I don't know if we need to go over those again. We'll be attacking those this summer with the help of the attorneys. And did you want to address this draft?
Yeah, sure. So in front of you, well, go ahead, you take it.
Well, you were one that suggested that we go ahead.
So in front of you, there is a policy that was drafted by a subcommittee, attendance, excuses, dismissal, and attendance. I'd like to accept this, waive the rules, add this to the agenda, and accept it as a first read. Give everybody a chance, just so we can make sure that it's implemented by the start of the school year, unless we have a special meeting this summer, which we can do it, or accept it as a first read now, and finalize it in August. So, I know I think Mr. Delapiano, who were the other members of that subcommittee?
It was Ms. Ciccarini, Mr. Delapiano, Ms. Morelli. Somebody have one more member? I think that might have been it.
Those three.
Yeah.
They've gone through this and just for the purpose of having it instituted by the start of the year, I'd asked that if we could waive the rules, add it to the agenda, and accept it as a first read.
So
And it's also based on CABE's.
Yeah, it's Kate.
CABE's standard.
Mhm.
Second.
So, motion to waive the rules and add this to the agenda. Motion by Ms. Vidal, second by Ms. Carol Fabian. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Take a motion to accept this as the first read of policy 5113A, students' attendance, excuses, dismissal, attendance.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Carol Fabian, seconded by Mr. O'Brien. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. So I'll ask everybody to take this home, read through it. In the event we have a special meeting in July, for whatever reason, we maybe add it to it. If not, we'll just take it up at the August meeting. Thank you for your indulgence on that. Athletic review, was there anything else?
That's it, thanks.
Athletic review, Mr. Kennedy, any updates? Okay. Bylaws committee did not meet, naming committee did not meet, and personnel committee did not meet. Kate, Ms. Carol Fabian.
Just to kind of repeat what Mrs. Mangini was saying, we get lots of emails from CABE. There's many different opportunities for webinars and different events or things that they are presenting that we can attend. And then there is the summer convention that is held in Westbrook. That's coming up in August. I believe August. I have the date written down and I don't have it in front of me. It's July or August. I can email everybody a reminder on that.
Questions? CS, Mr. Kennedy. Okay. Got you some slack for that. Stratford building needs, did not meet. So public forum for the redistricting, we've scheduled a meeting on July 8th at Johnson Academy. It'll be an opportunity for board members to hear concerns of residents. It'll be similar to public forum. Each speaker will have 3 minutes, depending on the amount of people. Maybe we can extend it, but we'll take a look at that. More information will come forward. And just as far as that goes, we haven't made, we've all got opinions, but I can only speak for myself. My opinion is based on the information I currently have, but it's not my final opinion. I am personally listening to what everybody has to say, taking what they have into account, trying to balance the needs of a few versus the needs of all, and come to the best conclusion. And I think as a board, we will all continue to listen and with an open mind until the time we are required to vote. So, but July 8th will be our next attempt to do that. It'll be at Johnson, and announcements will follow with details on that. So just so everybody knows. Good and welfare, any other? Hearing none, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Mr. O'Brien,
Second.
second by Mr. Dow. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Thank you.